And now the man who created that wonderful Kildare course and the gentleman who is the possessor of one of the most illustrious records in all of golf is with us today. Arnold Palmer, welcome to Golfing America.
Thank you, Joe.
I want to assure our viewers right at the outset that you are going to pass on some invaluable tips and advice pertaining to how they can improve their game. But I got to ask you, how in the world did you ever get involved in building golf courses?
Well, of course, being raised in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, and at the Latrobe Country Club, where my father was the golf course superintendent and the pro for 55 years.
55 years.
I was raised in the environment. And over the years, from the time he became the superintendent until I bought the club, there was constant change, and I was involved in that change, working for him on the grounds as a young boy, and then coming back after I was on the tour, and we built, well, we started by building 2 par 5s, and then we went on and built 9 holes to make it a full 18-hole golf course, and we really, I worked with him as an architect that 9 holes, and that kind of lit a fire in me, and as the years went on, I got more and more involved. I started out doing some local golf courses, and then got going internationally, and just kept going.
Well, and you enjoy it, obviously.
Well, I enjoy creating, and it you know, building a golf course is a lot of fun, but it isn't always as easy as people think it is, and there are negatives to doing this, and there have been times when people wanted me to build golf courses for them that I told them that they shouldn't build golf courses.
Is that right?
We had a case in the West Coast where a man wanted to give a golf course to a university, and the land was really not suited, and we advised him not to do it, and it never happened, as a matter of fact.
Now, let's take this from square one. Once you get a contract, suppose, say at Kildare, what is the sequence of events that gets that golf course going and finished?
Well, of course, Kildare was an exception. It was a great piece of property. It was a stable, a horse farm, and I suppose there were some drawbacks, but the most important thing was that it was a very usable piece of property. We moved a lot of dirt there. We built some lakes. We did some things that we had to do to make it a championship golf course, and that was move quite a lot of dirt.
May I interject here? I think you're a little too modest. You moved 1 million tons of dirt.
Well, 1 million yards.
Well, okay. From what that book says, it says tons, but it was a lot of dirt on
it. Yes. In golf course vernacular, they call it, I think, 1 million yards of dirt. And it is a great golf course, and only over the years will get greater. And of course, Michael Smurfett did a fantastic job of appointing the land, the golf course, the hotel. And I don't know, the hotel is just outstanding, and the service and the whole thing is one of the high points of Irish golf, I think, and one that will continue to be acknowledged as that as the years go on.
Well, they're fully intending for it to be a championship course. The Irish championship is going to be held there. They've already applied for Ryder Cup things, so they really think you have done a marvelous job. Just to complete some of the startling statistics that you accomplished at Kildare, I understand that there were 14 man-made lakes. There were the planting of 8,000 new trees, and plus you put an irrigation system from tee to green.
Well, yes, it has a fully automatic irrigation system, and as I said, there are things still happening. Some drainage things are happening from right now, and that will only improve the golf course so that it's very playable year-round.
Speaking of that, playable, this is a championship course, but you have actually designed maybe 4 courses in one because of your tee boxes, haven't you?
Well, we have made it so that hotel guests can go out and have a very pleasurable day.
Right.
But if the Ryder Cup or if the Irish Open is played at the K Club, and I don't know how much they push the name K Club versus Kildare.
They do put the K
Michael
Club
likes the K Club.
He likes that, yes, he does.
And all of those things are going to lend themselves to a great golf course. The fact that that there are numerous tees,
yes,
and those tees will be, the hotel guests can play a golf course that is relatively easy. And with the proper pin placements, you can get around that golf course in a reasonable good score. But if the Ryder Cup or the Irish Open is there, you can very quickly turn it into a monster and turn it into a very difficult test of golf.
Ernie Jones, the head pro there, told me that his measure of a good golf course is how many clubs it takes in your bag to play it. And he says at the K Club, you need every club you can get.
No question about it. And whether it be the par 5, the double dog leg
yes,
that you had the
one
opportunity to play, or whether it be the par 5 7th, which I think is also, those two holes are exceptional.
Absolutely, they are.
And the 7th being a hole that under the right conditions, you could have a go at it in 2.
Sure.
But you better be pretty accurate, because the canal and the stream running in front of that green can get you in trouble pretty fast.
Let's talk about accuracy just a little bit. Most of the amateur golfers that I come in contact with, including myself, have this business of knowing that direction is the name of the game, and yet we spray the ball quite a bit. Why is that, and how can you correct that business?
Well, you know, golf is a funny thing and a funny game, and one of the things that attract a lot of people to playing the game is hitting the golf ball hard. And they don't care where it goes. Yeah. And at least initially, the one thing they want to do is knock the dirt right out of that golf ball. Well, in doing that, of course, they lose the timing and coordination that is necessary to keep the ball straight. I suppose a combination of two things. One is hitting it hard. I wrote a book once, Hit It Hard.
Yes.
Because I was known as someone that really did hit the golf ball hard, and still do. But and maintaining accuracy at the same time, and of course that's something else. But I found that the one thing that in modern golf particularly you have to do is you have to move the ball out there. You have to get that distance, and swinging within yourself, keeping the whatever. And they talk about what is the proper golf swing. Well, if you look at Sam Snead over the years, you say, well, here's a man that absolutely just had the most beautiful golf swing in the world, and it was very effective. Or you could look at Gene Littler, another one. They call him Gene the Machine.
Sure.
Because he hit the ball so accurately, and he swung within himself. But now you're seeing a guy like John Daly,
that's right,
who any resemblance to a picture golf swing is not there.
No.
And but he is attracting a lot of attention.
And he does move the ball.
And he moves the golf ball, which is the ambition of almost every golfer in the world. There are few Paul Runyons in the world today. And of course, Paul is just a super guy and a guy that learned to control the golf ball. And he controlled it from the time he hit it off the tee until he put it in the hole, and he was pretty good at putting it in the hole.
Sure, he was.
When you think about 1939, I think it was, that Paul Runyon played Sam Snead in the finals of the PGA Championship, and I don't think there was a person in the gallery or in the world that day that thought Paul Runyon would beat Sam Snead, but he did. Yeah. And he beat him just through consistent accuracy and good putting.
But that takes such discipline, though, doesn't it?
It does.
Absolutely.
But golf's a disciplined game. I mean, it's...
Okay, listen, we're going to talk about memorable moments. You must, as a point of personal interest, take us back to 1960, final round of the Masters, because I think it might have been very much at that time, and perhaps a few months later at the U.S. Open, that Arnie's Army might very well have been created. You remember the final round of the Masters, Ken Venturi in the clubhouse. You were on the 16th tee, needing 3 birdies to win. What happened?
I remember it very well.
Tell me about it.
And of course, I was playing pretty well. I was afire, had a lot of steam going, and and made those putts. The ball got it on the green, and a couple times there was a good putt, and it went in the hole.
Arnie, that is so self-effacing. It is unbelievable. When you say making 3 birdies under that pressure, final round of the Masters, what was going through your head? Did you actually think you could do it?
Oh, absolutely.
You really did?
Oh, I was afraid I wouldn't do it.
Really?
That's how yeah, I kind of got the feeling that I was, a lot of the time, that I just had to make it. And I couldn't stand myself if I didn't. More than, I like everyone, I suppose there was some cockiness in it, but more just that the embarrassment.
Really?
Of not winning at that point was something that worried me to death.
Well, you did make the 3 birdies. You did win the 60 Masters, and in a couple of months after that, you did something else that is unforgettable. The final round of the U.S. Open at Cherry Hill. Mike Suchak at the start of that day was, what, 7 strokes ahead of you? You were in 15th place or something like that?
That's right.
Tell me what the story was, because I've heard so many stories about how you decided what you needed to shoot in that final round to win.
Well, in difference to the Masters a few months earlier at Cherry Hills, which was a golf course that I really wasn't overly familiar with. I had had the proper practice and so forth, but I was very disappointed in my play through the first 3 rounds. I felt like I had played really pretty good golf and just botched it. I hadn't done anything. I shot 72, 71, 72, and was really probably as upset at myself as I could be. And I remember talking to Bob Drum, one of the Pittsburgh writer, and I was having a sandwich, and I said, Bob, I think if I can shoot 65, I can still win the Open. What do you think of 65? And he says, for you, nothing. And it really angered me. I was a little impetuous, and it got to me. And I never finished the sandwich. I went out and hit a few practice balls and went right to the first tee and teed off, and knocked that drive on the green.
You drove the green.
Right.
How far was that drive?
I think they measured as 336 yards.
Good.
And then got so excited I almost 3-putted, making about a 2-foot putt for my second putt after a poor first putt. But then things really started happening, and just started and made a number of birdies and got to the, I think it was the 5th hole, where this is the hole that I really should birdie, par 5.
Yeah.
And I come off of a second shot a little bit, put it in the sand trap pin high, blasted out about 8-10 feet, and missed the putt. Made my first par. And then birdied, and then made a good putt at the 6th, and another good shot at the 7th, and of course about this time Bob Drum and all the press guys that were not really too high on my chances of winning showed up, and of course the rest of it is kind of history. I was very fortunate. I played a good round, shot 65, and the 280 that we figured would win did win.
Isn't that incredible? Well, there are very, very many more memorable moments in that great career of yours. But you were talking about hitting the ball hard. Did you always swing the way you swing? That is, with that energy, with that strength? Has it always been that way?
Yeah, I started out as a youngster right here at Latrobe Country Club, swinging very hard, and I can recall the critics telling my father to be sure that I got it a little more under control. And my father being a pretty tough guy, and then he said, listen, you take care of your business and we'll take care of Arnie's golf. Don't worry about it. So, and that was, I fell down a lot of time. I hit it swung so hard and lost my balance and so forth. And it never worried him too much. And the good news is it worked out reasonably well.
We alluded to this earlier in the interview, but I think it bears repeating, and we'll sum it up. We have people, Bobby Jones, you have a Sam Snead, you have a Tom Weisskopf. Okay, those are people what would call classic swings. But then we have an Arnold Palmer. We have a Lee Trevino. We have a Chichi Rodriguez. Non-classic swings. But all of them very effective. What are the elements of a great swing?
Effectiveness.
Yeah, but what do they all have in common to get them to the ball?
That's a good question, and it's a very fair question. I developed as a young man when I was practicing and playing. What I tried to do was I wasn't interested in being classic or swinging the golf club in any particular manner.
Mm-hmm.
What I was interested in was getting the golf ball into the fairway and then onto the green. And when I practiced blocking to a degree, and that's one of the things that a lot of the critics were very critical of, that my left elbow was coming up and I was blocking a lot of shots. But I was young enough and strong enough that I could do that. I set a pattern for doing that, and it worked for me. I suppose you could say, if you wanted to compare it, when I first saw Jack Nicklaus playing golf,
mm-hmm.
his right elbow
was
flying.
elbow. Sure.
And everybody said, boy, he'll never make it as long as that. Boy, he sure didn't, did he?
Yeah, I think he's going to fade here just any day now.
Well, he may the next 10 or 15 years. But that's the whole thing. Trevino will take hours and hours explaining to you what he's doing with the golf ball. Well, there's a couple of things you have to think about when you're talking about golfers like Trevino or Nicklaus or Rodriguez or any of the people you mentioned, and that is that they have learned to put the golf club in a pattern.
Okay. And
that pattern is something that they've designed for their strength, their body, their ability,
mm-hmm.
and that's why they're great players. And that doesn't take anything away from the man that can do the classic swing like Sam Snead. He did the same thing, only he was fortunate enough to have a very down, basic swing. Littler the same way. But my goodness, how could you ever knock a golf swing like Trevino, who mm-hmm. is not certainly orthodox?
No.
But he gets the golf ball to where he wants it to be. And the club follows the pattern that he wants it every time he takes it back. So there's a whole combination of things in that. His grip, the stance, the body turn, the position of his head, which is always in a very sound position. And the strength, and that doesn't mean physical strength. It means more the strength that he uses in the coordination and the movement of that club through the golf ball. Look at Chichi. Chichi's hands are, as he says, his largest thumb or finger is about like my small finger.
Right.
But look at him hit the golf ball. Distance, accuracy, and you say Chichi, his hands are not strong,
mm-hmm.
but don't underestimate again any of these people. They have strong parts to their body.
Sure.
Whether it be their shoulders, their arms, mm-hmm. their legs, those things are there, and you just can't ignore them.
No.
And that's all part of the golf swing.
Well, Jack has small hands, but he's got big, strong legs.
Exactly, and he uses his legs, and he has used his legs very, very well through the years. And now, again, it's what you can make out of what you have to work with.
So if we were going to sort of have a 10 commandments of golf, probably one of the first commandments would be know thy swing and try to get it to repeat, whether it is in the classic mold or even in the mold of accepted behavior in the golf parlance today.
Well, right. I've always said, if you let me put your hands on a golf club, and put them on there properly,
right,
then you go ahead and swing the golf club, and as long as you keep your hands on there in that orthodox
mm-hmm.
and let's say conventional
mm-hmm.
Tradition, if you wish, manner,
yeah,
and you keep practicing with them on there, I'm going to make you a pretty good golfer.
Tell me, what is the best golf grip, or the grip that you would recommend to anybody?
Well, I don't, there's 3 grips, and they're all pretty basic, and they're all proper. And whether it be the Varden or overlapping grip, which I use, or whether it be the interlocking grip, which Nicholas uses, or whether it be the full finger grip, which a guy like Art Wall or Bob Rosberg used very successfully through their years. And there are players today doing the same thing. But the fact is that these are the proper grips, and the basic fundamentals are there. Whether it be the V's are running parallel, one V isn't going this way and one V is going the other way, and those are things that are going to help you and make you a good player.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about putting. You were one of the most audacious and confident putters I've ever seen. Did you actually think you're going to make those 25, 30 footers? Or were you just trying to get them close?
Absolutely.
You really saw it go in?
Oh, I always felt like if I could get the ball and all I needed to do was get it going into the hole, it had every chance to go in. It was not going to be short.
That's what I was just going to say. You were almost never short.
And that was one of the things that I learned early, just to get the ball to the hole. Whatever happened, keep it going. And you know, a lot of the time you get tentative, and that's what ruins the putting. That's where the putting goes. We start getting tentative with the putter. We're scared we're going to put it too far by the hole and then miss it coming back. And those are the things that cause people to putt poorly. As long as they can keep a positive attitude about getting the ball by the hole and not worrying about it coming back, they're going to be good putters. And whether everybody has a different approach to putting, but they can't change that approach. And that is get the ball by the hole.
So it's confidence to a certain extent in thinking about it. Now, the business of putters, I know that you got a whole wall in your workshop of putters, and many have been given to you, and some you tinker with and so on. Do amateurs really ever give enough thought to choosing the correct putter for them, or is there a correct putter for a particular type?
Well, I think one of the most important things to putting and good putting is the eye appeal to the putter. If a man looks at a putter and he has and it is appealing to his eye, that's going to be sufficient for him to be a good putter. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's a Calamity Jane or a 504 or a Cash In or a Bullseye, you name it. Whatever it might be, if it's appealing. And I always feel like if the lines are pretty straight on a putter, that helps too. Rectangular lines or square can help. Now that doesn't mean that you have to have them, because a lot of people that putted awfully good didn't have those straight lines.
And the manner of getting the ball to the hole, as far as a shoulder stroke, a wrist stroke, does that come from practice and see what works for you?
Well, I think so, yeah. Of course, the law of averages today, if you watch the young guys playing on the tour, you will see most all of them are arms and shoulder putters. They're not wrist putters. They're better putters than let's say that we were back in a few years ago, simply for that reason. But you can't ever knock someone like Billy Casper, who had a very definite wrist break.
And he popped the ball.
Popped the ball and putted just fantastically well. I broke my wrist and putted pretty well. Jack, from time to time, was a wrist putter also. So there is no set system. The system is the one that you know and you can use the best.
You're telling me that your putting stroke changes, or has changed?
I have never known anyone that didn't have a change in their putting stroke. Maybe Bobby Locke.
Oh, but he used to hook the. Did he used to hook the, or was that Cruikshank?
No, that was Bobby Locke.
Was that Bobby Locke?
He was probably the greatest putter of all time. And I remember playing in the British Open. A few years before Bobby quit playing, and he was still the best putter I'd ever seen.
What do you think made him that good? Because let's face it, Arnie, the greens then were not anywhere what the greens were today.
Exactly. And that's probably what got him started doing what he was doing, by hooking the putt. He didn't depend on what was the greens were, what texture, what grasses he was putting on. He was going to make the ball do the same thing on any grass that he was on and any surface. And that's what he did. He made the ball roll from right to left. And he learned to do it so well that it didn't matter what the surface was. He could pop it, it would bounce and jump and do all kinds of things, but it was going right at the hole every time.
But he had this uncanny ability to gauge distance and feel. He must have had an enormously sensitive touch to be able to decide how hard he's going to hit this ball, because he was sinking them from all over.
Well, I think he had a tremendous touch, and he had a good feel. But the other thing is to remember that from the system that he used was a system that the ball was turning over all the time, and it was always turning to the left. So he knew how far he could go outside to the right. He played golf that way. There were golf courses that he had trouble playing because the trees on the right were too close to the fairway.
He hooked everything.
And he had to go through them to get into the fairway.
Well, it's amazing. The idea, though, as you say, is get
Everything.
It's unbelievable. Okay. Are you ready? Okay. Arnie, we talked a little bit earlier about accuracy. We talked about distance. Course management is something that the average golfer really doesn't pay too much attention to, and yet you take a course like Kildare or any challenging course, it's imperative that they know what the course is all about. Do you think amateurs don't pay enough attention to course management?
Well, I think as they get better,
They do.
their handicap gets down. They become better managers of the golf course and their game. Kildare is a golf course that will require course management, even from the good players, the low handicappers. But I did a book once called Situation Golf, and that was really about managing your game to the golf course you're going to play. And I suggested that more people should think about that. If their primary purpose is to improve their game, lower their handicap, then that's what they need to start thinking about. And that doesn't mean you can't hit the golf ball hard and go after it and do all the things you like to do, but you really have to think of the consequences of hitting the bad shot or pulling or pushing the shot, and give yourself that little edge or that little extra room that you might need to keep the ball in play.
What are some of the basic, say, suggestions for course management for the average golfer? For instance, perhaps on the tee, they might be able to move themselves one way or the other. What are some of the things they can notice in the course of playing around, perhaps, that might help them?
Well, one of the things that I always have used in playing a golf course, let's say that let's go to the first hole at Kildare, if you wish.
Okay.
And with an out of bounds on the left side.
Right.
And you've got a pretty good sized tee there. And the trouble to the right is trouble, but it isn't nearly as serious as going out of bounds.
Sure.
So I always, when in a situation like that, I go to the right side of the tee.
Okay.
And I always felt like if I'm on the right side of the tee and shooting down that right side, when you hit a ball 200 yards or 250 yards, the few yards that you give yourself on the tee from the left to the right magnifies itself when it gets out there 200, 250 yards.
That's
so
sure.
You're really giving yourself a pretty good edge by moving to the right side. If you pull it, the chances are you're not going to pull it out of bounds. And that kind of thing is the thing that I always look for, a little advantage. And there's always an angle, such as maybe a lake or something on the right side of a hole, and it could be any hole. And you again, you can use the first solution to that, moving to the left and using the left side of the tee. Or sometimes go back to the right side, the same side as the lake is on, and particularly if there's no trouble to the left, and aim it across and shoot it and go across the line to the left side.
I guess also it depends on what kind of a ball you're hitting that particular day. If you're hitting a fade, if you're hitting a draw and so on, you've got to know your game again. And I suppose you ought not to try anything too chancy when you're confronted with out of bounds and that kind of thing.
Well, the penalty, the out of bounds penalty is a pretty heavy penalty. Or the lost ball penalty, where you're hitting the ball into the bush and you can't find it. It's the same as knocking it out of bounds.
Sure. But those little things, so the things you've noticed and mentioned, and also the fact that if you're playing adjacent fairways and you're heading down and you putt it out on the way, or say walking down a fairway, notice where the pin is on the adjacent green, so that perhaps you know how far to hit it when you're approaching.
Exactly. Exactly. A lot of people never think to look at what the next hole may present, and that'll help a lot. Just, my caddies are always up to speed. As you know, we have pin placements handed to us and so forth. And I always like to be reminded of where that flag is on the green before I tee off, because there's always a little, maybe just a little advantage being left or right off the tee and going into that flag on that next green.
And when you're playing a really challenging course, like you say, Kildare, or maybe the one at Turnberry in Scotland, which is also formidable. Have you played Turnberry?
I've played it a lot, yes.
And how do you find it?
Well, I think it's a very good golf course, and one that we've had a lot of fun playing over the years.
Well, we managed to get over to Turnberry and managed to play that, I think, the 12th hole, and we were able to get on the blue tees, and we were supposed to hit 220 yards into a 30-mile gale to carry this gorge. It's on the, I think it's the Firth of Clyde there, the ocean thing there. And it is a formidable kind of thing. Is Scottish golf different than Irish golf? Courses and stuff?
Well, Scottish golf is different in itself. The links courses on the waterways or the oceans or the seas versus the inland courses are different. But most Scottish golf courses are links courses.
Right.
However, there are a few inland courses where I wouldn't consider them links courses. The Irish golf courses are a combination of links and then more the regular American style golf courses. I think Kildare, you would be able to say, is not a total links golf course. No, it's an inland course. It's got a lot of trees and so forth. And my opinion of a links course is generally a golf course that does not have a lot of trees on it, and that is the difference.
You know, Turnberry, as I said, doesn't seem to have that many trees, but by golly, it is
it's a links course. Right?
Yeah, sure it is. Let's talk just a minute or two about equipment and the business of how it has developed and how it has changed the game. For good or ill or what?
Well, the high-tech revolution that's going on now is changing the game. It's giving players a distinct advantage, I think, with lighter shafts, and you can do so much with them. You can get a lighter shaft, a heavier head, and your overall weight is not as heavy, and it gives you a little more club head speed in hitting the golf ball. The older players can really take advantage of this.
Trevino says he's hitting it 15 yards longer now than he was on the
And I believe
tour.
that.
Yeah.
Of course, Trevino is strong. You got it, and he keeps himself in pretty good shape. So you can't deny him that.
Yeah.
The thing that I think in equipment, and of course we all manufacturers, whether it be Pro Group, my company, in manufacturing Peerless Petes and clubs that we think are better for playing the game of golf versus one thing, and that's the golf ball. And I think the golf ball in technology has advanced far faster than even the equipment. And I think if there's something that we're going to have to control in the years to come, it is going to be the initial velocity of the golf ball. And that simply means that we're going to have to slow it down to keep from outmoding our golf courses, keep our golf courses that are great, whether it be the Oakmonts or the Wingfoots or Marions or you name it. The one thing that I can see that can control the game is the ball.
Yeah. What do you look for as far as golf in the next 15 years? How do you think it's going to go? What are some of the predictions you might have for it off the top of your head?
Well, the predictions are, one, that we're going to have to keep it in a price bracket that people can afford.
The green fees are getting a little out of line?
Green fees, whatever, golf club prices, and I'm talking inflation and taking into consideration and everything. But that would be one thing that would concern me. The other things that are really all pluses, once a person starts playing golf, the 99 out of 100 are hooked.
Yeah.
I mean, once you get into the game and you understand it and you it's the mysteries of it and all the things that go on a golf course, from people you meet to the challenge of a new golf course to the personal challenge of being able to play the game and play it well. All these things are things that make the game just so fascinating. There's not another game in the world that can be as great as the game of golf. The individualness of the game, the fact that whatever happens, you've done it to yourself. No one else is doing it, and that makes it fascinating. So my predictions are that the game of golf is going to continue to grow. Whether it will grow as rapidly as we've seen in the last 10, 15, 20 years is questionable, but it will continue to grow. We'll continue to build golf courses, maybe not as fast as we have been building them. But what is going to happen around the world, not just in America, or not in Scotland, or Ireland, or England, or Australia, or South Africa, but in other places. The Indias, the third world nations are going to start building golf courses, and we're going to see more golf in other countries throughout the world.
Well, Arnie, in about 15 years, why don't I come back and interview you again and see how these predictions pan out?
I love it.
And in the meantime, continued good luck, and the greatest of pleasure it has been for us to have you on Golfing America.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks.
My putting green?
Yeah, and I would like you to show us a little putter.
Yeah,
Actually,
I can practice my putting in winter or in well, it wouldn't have been fun.
Now you know which way the floor is breaking here.
Well, it breaks.
Does it really?
Sure. If I put a putt from here, back, goes to the left.
Oh, it does. Right dead smack in the middle.
So anyway,
You know that. This is what you're feeling. Could we take a look at you over here, and I'd like for you to maybe just demonstrate the grip that you would suggest.
well,
Persimmon?
it is persimmon.
Are they going back to that, or?
We think so. We have enough people that like persimmon
Yeah,
and like the feel and the sound
yeah.
that we've sold something in a period of about 3 to 4 weeks. We've sold 10,000.
What is the, show me the correct grip that you would recommend.
Well, of course, for the average player, first of all, the back 3 fingers are the full glove. Index finger and thumb are give you a little feel of the glove, and the V comes right up here to the seam in the right shoulder.
Okay.
And then when you put this on, the middle 2 fingers are the pressure points.
Okay.
The index finger and thumb certainly hold the club also.
Right.
But if you'll notice, the V's parallel themselves.
Yes.
If you put 2 strings up there, they would be like railroad tracks, and they would come right to that right shoulder. And that's basically the grip.
And if that doesn't change, then chances are your swing is going to be more consistent.
When you can put your hands on the club and feel that club just like that every time, you're going to become a better player.
Okay. So you don't mess around with the grip once you get it right.
Exactly.
Okay.
This is the pointers that you're talking to some of your partners.
And why don't we take a look at some of those putters?
Well, yeah.
Take one of the most.
Bananas, we got one that's a banana putter. Or if you like scotch, we've got one that's J&D.
But is that actually, somebody actually produced that, or is that?
Oh, no, they produce them, sure. And we have everything you can think of. From a rocket here to...
Is there an Arnold Palmer museum yet? If
We
not,
are
why
now
not?
in the process of going to create that.
I think.
Right here in
I
Latrobe.
think you ought to. It's just amazing.
Yes, sir.
How many of those drivers have you used?
Just about every one of them. I've hit some more golf balls with.
Arnie, you've taken up more of your time, but thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
What's the first question? Checking 1, 2, 1, 2. Say what?
Okay, ready? You looking at me? Okay, wipe
Yeah.
your brow.
Wipe my lip or my brow?
Yeah, the lip, okay? You look
Okay.
at any reaction? It's fascinating.
Speak. Eyes.
Oh, we skipped the point. Laugh.
What? No sound.
Not just you not nodding, you just looking at me. Serious. Serious. Okay. All right, take it from square one. Once you get a contract, what do you do?
All right, let's take it from square one. When you get a contract, what's the sequence of events in developing that golf course?
Let's talk about accuracy. Just a little bit. Most amateurs know they spray it in on this.
Let's talk a little bit about accuracy. Most amateurs, myself included, spray the ball all over the place. How can we correct that?
Okay, let's talk about memorable moments. 1960 final.
Well, let's talk about memorable moments. 1960, I think, is probably when Arnie's Army was created. Tell me a little bit about the final 3 holes of the 1960 Masters.
Talking about hitting the ball hard, has it always been that way for you?
We're not going to talk about Cherry Hill then, I suppose,
No.
the U.S. Open. Okay,
Wait, you can explain.
okay,
Okay, so you're talking about hitting the ball hard.
okay. Have you always hit the ball that?
Yeah,
Oh,
that
okay.
kind of thing. Yeah,
Ready?
talking about hitting the ball you've had.
Yeah. Ready?
I'm rolling.
Tell me when. Well, no, Kate is waiting.
Okay, go ahead.
Talking about hitting the ball hard, have you always swung the way you did with, let's do it again. Talking about hitting the ball hard, have you always swung the way you do with such energy and such strength?
We have people, Sam Snead, et cetera, that's the long question.
Yeah,
Sam Snead,
okay, I got that.
Presley said.
All right. We have,
Say Arnie.
okay, Arnie, we have Bob Jones, we have Sam Snead, Tom Weiskopf, all people with what we would call classic swings. But we also have Sam, let me try again. Can we pick it up from,
Yeah.
but we also have, oh, let's try again. Okay. Arnie, we had Sam Snead. Let's do it again because you distracted me.
Right, you hit a card there.
Tell me when. You ready? Arnie, we have,
You hit a card.
well,
Okay.
all right. Arnie, we have a Bobby Jones, we have a Sam Snead, we have a Tom Weisskopf, all people with what we call classic swings. But we also have an Arnold Palmer, a Lee Trevino, Chichi Rodriguez, people with non-classic swings, but they are all effective. What are the elements of all great swings?
And so if we were to give you as the 10 commandments in golf, what would be make it repeat? Make it.
If we were to have the
So if we were to.
So if we were to have, say, the 10 commandments of golf, one of them would be, let thy swing repeat itself.
Let's talk a little bit about putting. You were one of the most audacious
Okay.
putters. Did you really think you'd make those 30 or 40?
Let's talk a little bit about putting. You were one of the most audacious and confident putters I have ever seen. Now, did you actually think you were going to make those 25 and 30 footers?
You want to do that again?
Let's talk a little bit about putting. You were one of the most audacious and confident putters I have ever seen. Did you actually think you were going to make those 25 and 30 footers?
Tell me, what is the best grip?
Tell me, Arnie, what is the best grip?
So it is but now this business of putters, I know you've worked a workshop or blah blah blah. You have a lot of putters back there. No, do you think amateurs don't give
Okay.
enough thought to the right pattern for them, the right
Yeah.
putter for them?
Now, as far as putters are concerned, I know you have a whole wall of them down in your workshop. Do you think that amateurs pay enough attention to the right putter for them?
And the manner of getting the ball to the hole, is that just practice? What works for you?
And the business of getting the ball to the hole, is that a business of practicing and just seeing what works for you?
You're telling me that your putting stroke changed or
Mhm.
changes?
You mean to tell me that your putting stroke changes or has changed?
Right, yeah. Arnie, we talk about course management. The golfer doesn't pay attention
Okay.
to it. Do you think amateurs pay enough attention?
Arnie, let's talk a little bit about course management. Do you think that amateurs pay enough attention to course management?
What are some of the basic suggestions for course management for the amateur?
What would you suggest as some of the basic suggestions? What would you suggest that an amateur do as far as improving their course management?
Okay. I guess it develops upon the ball hitting. I suppose you would try anything too fancy. Don't try anything too fancy. I guess it develops upon what kind of ball you're hitting.
Oh, okay. I guess a lot depends on what kind of a ball you're hitting that day, whether you're hitting a fade or a draw, to know what kind of ball will get you into trouble or keep you out of it.
But those little things, notice when the pin is on the next hole. Okay.
But there are a lot of little things. For instance, when you're walking down the fairway, notice where the adjacent pin is on the adjacent green.
And when you're playing a challenging course tournament, is Scottish golf different from Irish golf?
Is Scottish golf different from Irish golf?
Okay, let's talk about equipment. And how
Well,
it's
you don't want to get
developed and
Turnberry,
how
right?
it's changed.
You didn't get Turnberry, okay. I was hoping to get him out. Say what?
Let's talk about how it's developed equipment, how it's changed the game. Has it changed the game?
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about equipment. How has it changed the game, and has it changed the game?
What do you look for as far as golf in the next 15 years?
Arnie, what do you look for as far as golf in the next 15 years?
Think you got it? That would be great.
Well, he's going to sign that picture for me.
Yeah?
So, yes. Oh, you want room sound? Okay?
Great. Yeah, if you could set up a while.
Yeah, I'm just.
Oh, you're welcome.
And with the lights?
Yeah.